My name's Brian. I serve a Presbyterian church in San Diego, and I have the privilege of eating breakfast regularly with other denominational leaders, Lutheran pastors, Methodist pastors, a rabbi, and a Roman Catholic priest. And we're all dealing with what's going to happen. Will the church ever be the same? Is this the end of the world? And I thought it would be interesting to have a conversation with one of those breakfast partners, Father Dennis, who's actually the Monsignor of San Rafael Catholic Parish. So what follows is an interview around the question of what do we do, what's going to happen, what are they struggling with, as we try and work together as Christians to prepare the church and respond to this quarantine, looking to the future. We're still practicing social distancing, so I'm going to put my mask on and go get him, and we'll have an interview in my office. Thanks for watching today. Well, it's great to have you here.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, we eat breakfast together, and I've always respected your opinion. I think people are lucky to have you as a priest. And
Say that again so they hear that.
People are lucky to have you as a priest.
Thank you.
Because I see the side of you that is, and I can tell you're comfortable where you are in your ministry and your call, but I see the side of you that really does get to be a colleague in ministry, and I always enjoy listening to your perspective. And so I wanted to do this kind of a Catholic perspective, a Presbyterian pastor's perspective on what the future of the church might look like.
Right.
And I asked you that, and so I turn it to you. What are your thoughts on what we might be looking at as the new normal when we get back to the normal things?
Part of the future of the church, I think, is exactly what we're doing here. Christians sharing the faith together. But the new normal of the church, who knows what it's going to be, because everything changed. Everything's in constant change since the beginning of time. And with the new technology and everything that's going on the way it is, some people are comfortable at home, but still, we have to come together as churches, God's people. So we just take one step at a time, putting our hands in the hands of the Holy Spirit, and let the Holy Spirit guide us where we have to go.
You mentioned to me that, obviously I know enough about the Roman Catholic traditions and faith and theology that the Eucharist is central to your practices, and that has been stretched. Obviously, you just can't do it the way you did.
Right.
We have just been having communion virtually. That has, interestingly to me, reawakened sort of an appreciation for the sacraments, since we have had to acknowledge that this is an exception to the rule. It's not the intention to have communion apart.
Right.
For me, I've been really sort of reading different things and thinking, listening to different church leaders from different perspectives, and I'm kind of stuck on this Ecclesiastes passage and the theme throughout Ecclesiastes from King Solomon, all is vanity. He had so much, and at the peak of his wisdom, he thought, this can't be all there is. And I have tried to refocus and reorient my own life and family around what is the right priority. Prayer over panic, faith over fear, the faith of Christ, the faith of others. And I picked up Bonhoeffer, and I just haven't read a lot of him since seminary. It's been 15 or 16 years. And he said, one of the things we do is preach what is worthless to the world has worth to God. And so that's where I come back to that, all is vanity. We need to remind people what's important.
Well, that's so true. Maybe this is also one of God's ways of letting us know that the way we've been living our lives, divorced from Him, is vanity. Another quote of Bonhoeffer, where he talks about cheap grace.
Yes.
And cheap grace is just what we expect to be given to us for nothing.
Right.
But yet we have to embrace that and live that.
Yeah.
And in our lives as a Catholic people, without the Eucharist, and the Church teaches, the Second Vatican Council teaches, the Eucharist is the source and summit of Catholic life.
Okay.
And it's the source of everything that we do. And we're just looking forward to the time when all can come together again to celebrate.
We talked a little bit ahead of time, and I really do value your opinion and listen, because you're coming from something you can't remove yourself from. Your tradition, right. I'm coming from the same. For me, what I'm wondering is, what when we come back will be perhaps, and again, it's like you said, we don't know. And every church consultant, every pastor, every parishioner is crystal balling. Well, gee, it's going to be exactly the way it was before to it's going to be radically different. And I think some type of hybrid is emerging, that we're never going to be removed from in-person gathering, but that there may be elements of our faith increasingly that are embracing technology. Church meetings, I've noticed with our own elders, it's a silly thing, but for Presbyterians, we do a lot of committees.
Right.
And it's lovely to not have to come up to the church and have a business meeting, because the business meeting really isn't fellowship. We jump on a Zoom meeting, we have it. So I'm wondering what aspects of technology might continue even as we return to in-person. And that's what I'm trying to sort of wrestle with. What's the good with technology? Where's the loss in the technology?
Well, in worship, Protestants are far ahead of Catholics on this, on worship technology from television or radio or whatever. Now, there has always been Catholic radio stations, but even now through agencies like EWTN in Alabama, Eternal Word Television Network, or Bishop Robert Barron is now online and on TV regularly. People are getting more and more used to that. And again, that is an aid to people who cannot get out or at this time afraid to get out yet. But as far as meetings and things like that go, we're getting more and more into the Zoom technology as well. Even prayer meetings that we have. There's a group I associate with, Benedictine Oblates, that they meet by Zoom now. We're meeting by Zoom until we can come together. One of the things I found about it, I find quite humorous. If you're at a meeting, you're not really paying attention to anybody else, right? You're paying attention, but really not. But on Zoom, you see them eating their French fries or blowing their nose or getting up and walking out.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think that's going to be more and more as well. And it certainly shortens the time of meetings too, which nobody is opposed to, I don't think.
There you go.
So it's all going to be part of the future. Exactly. We're taking baby steps toward that right now.
Well, if there's one thing that maybe I would hope my parishioners would take forward, and these are, people who I see all the time and now I haven't seen for a while. For me, it's this, this prayer over panic, faith over fear. Right. But the other one is the idea you mentioned, cheap grace. It's a gift given to us, but it's not cheap. Someone paid the ultimate price for it. So I would encourage people to embrace that which God has given us and to be gracious that way unto others and themselves. Because I have noticed, candidly, I have random moments where I'm just in a bad mood and I can't put my finger on it. And I think this has reminded me of God's grace. The message of my grace is sufficient.
Right.
And so that's my message. Do you have a message to your parishioners or people you work with or something from your personal perspective?
It's very, very much the same as yours. God has given us the grace of Himself. He shares us with Himself in a unique way in the celebration of the Eucharist that brings us together.
Sure.
Communio, cum unio, one with, not just with the Lord, but with each other. And from there, we take that message, from the walls of our worship spaces out into the world. And what we have been given is a precious, precious gift, not just in celebrating the sacraments, but in celebrating with one another for the growth of the church.
Well, thank you. It's been as always, it's a delight to hear your thoughts and pick your brain. We should do this more often, and I'll look forward to when we can gather again in a sacramental way our local breakfast with the other pastors. So,
sounds good.
Well, God bless you.
Thank you. You too.